Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society.
Are you ready to go back to
Inkopolis? It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you this week. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including Splatoon 3's fresh season launching, and then on Thursday, we are casting the Triforce with different Nintendo characters. But Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. Okay, so this cold open comes from a part, the very beginning of Titanic.
Sure.
Which I did not remember. But
I pitched it to you, and you were a good sport.
No. What I was going to say is that, what made it stand out in your mind? Like, how do you? This is a terrible question because it's like, where do your ideas ideas come from? But what? Because we were talking about Inkopolis, Splatoon 3, and so is this a line that you have talked about before?
That I've talked? I don't think so.
How did this line come to your mind?
Okay, so are you ready to go back to Titanic?
Uh-huh.
And when I pitched it to you, I said return to Titanic because I had it mixed up in my head. I believe that's been used to advertise it
Oh, that makes a ton of
probably
sense.
even right now.
Right, when they did the 3D re-release. And...
Or even when they brought it back to theaters after Phantom Menace came out because they were like, no. The new Star Wars isn't going to beat Titanic at the box office. No.
You're right. I bet it was used everywhere. But the reason it stands out to me so much and will now forever be in my mind is because it really bugs me how he doesn't say, "Are you ready to go back to the Titanic?" He just says, "Are you ready to go back to Titanic?" Which seems so weird to me.
I think he was just setting up future ad campaigns because the name of the movie is definitely just Titanic and not The Titanic.
Or maybe it's one of those magic of the movies, how nobody answers telephones by saying hello or by saying, "Okay, I'm hanging up, goodbye." People just answer their phones and hang up their phones. Maybe it's the same sort of thing where it's it just sounded better without the.
Right. Well, just he never says "play it again, Sam." Darth Vader doesn't say "No, I am your father."
No, that's exactly what he says. He doesn't say "Luke, I am your father."
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes, that's right. Thank you. But yeah, so maybe it is a magic of the movies thing. But also maybe it's a SoCal versus the rest of the country thing.
Oh,
that,
sure.
We call it the Five.
Yes. And so I
Yes.
a West Coast dummy would call it the Titanic.
That's right.
But East Coast elites who are actually on Titanic,
that's right,
would not
just call it
the
Titanic.
Yes, exactly. I bet you're right.
Mark, Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood has opened.
Yeah, it's open.
It is currently open.
But we have not been there yet, but we will.
Mark, I have been to the studio store on City Walk,
and
I got you.
Oh my goodness!
Your power band, your Yoshi power band. I just handed it to Mark. Surprised him with it.
Yeah, I had no idea this is very exciting. Also, this thing is enormous.
They're really big. They're really big, but they're cute. Mark got the Yoshi one. I got Mario. Sarah's Toad, and our special guest for the episode where we're going to talk about it has selected Peach. But yeah, so this is it's real now. We have power bands.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for picking this up ahead of time. We are going to be there this coming Sunday, February 26th. Like we've mentioned before, we're not doing, just because it was short notice, we're not doing a formal meetup. But if you happen to be going to Universal Studios Hollywood on the 26th, we would love to meet up and hang out with you.
Yep.
So
just hit us up on the Discord. Let us know that you're going to be there, and we'll connect.
Absolutely.
And we'll try to get on that Mario Kart ride. Who knows what So we had to go to City Walk, which is the mall outside of the theme park to get these. And so we are close enough to check in on the length of the lines. And the line for the Mario Kart ride when we were there at 7 p.m., which is so close to park closing time, was 100 minutes. So I think it's gonna be a zoo there.
I think there's a good chance. It was President's Day weekend, so maybe when we go next week, it won't be as bad. It's also supposed to be like really cold.
It's supposed to be really cold.
LA cold,
yes,
but
it'll be LA cold. LA cold is different from regular cold, though. This is another thing where we're just calling it the 405.
Exactly. Yep.
So anyway, if you're around, let us know. Mark, we have launched a Patreon where we are doing cool episodes about murder mystery shows that we're watching. It's part of the NCS Detective Club, which is a bonus thing that we're doing if you subscribe at the $8 or $16 levels. We've got a bunch of other rewards. You can check them all out at patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society.
That's right. And one thing that hasn't changed with the Patreon launching is that our Discord is still free, still open to everybody, and we would love for you to join. Always some great discussion in there about the latest Nintendo news. So yeah, hit us up on Twitter, send us an email, let us know one way or the other.
Email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, and we will send you an invite, and you can get in there and have fun conversations. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. You give me one extra sound cue to play, and it just like throws me off completely. I'm like, what do I do? Tetris 99 ticket update. I now have 597 tickets.
Dun 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 dun. That's, I think, the theme music.
I think it is. I'm gonna clip that out, and I'm gonna add yet another sound cue for me to play. But yeah, almost crossing that 600 barrier.
Oh, so close.
Some people said that I'd never cross the 600 barrier, but here we are. We're on the eve of me accomplishing that.
Truly, if those people are listening to the show, truly shamed they must be.
Yeah. Thank you, Yoda.
Well, I continue to play Metroid Prime Remastered. I'm still really, really loving it. Still think it's a great game. So I'm at the point where I have no sense of how far I am into this game.
Yes.
So I recently got the gravity suit, so I can like go underwater and really easily. And
you can hear George Clooney's voice in your head. Sorry, this is a reference to the movie Gravity.
Oh, I've never seen it.
You've never seen Gravity?
I didn't see it. So because I feel like it was one of those movies that I need to see in theaters, and then I didn't see it in theaters, and so now it's just like I don't know how to experience it.
Right, and you don't remember this line from Titanic?
Maybe this is a me problem. So
you have the gravity suit.
I have the gravity suit, but I had forgotten that like there start being all these space pirates with jetpacks that are flying around all the time, and these like Chozo ghost enemies that are also really annoying. And so I've reached a point where, and maybe there are shortcuts I should be taking, but it feels like I have to do a fair amount of backtracking.
And fight the same guys every time?
And because you like walk into a room, and before there were just like regular enemies there, but now because you're further along in the game, they're like, hey, here's some space pirates with jetpacks, here's some ghost Chozo that are just kind of like a little bit annoying to fight. That means, and plus the backtracking, which again, maybe I don't have to do. Maybe there are like shortcuts that I should be taking, but I just don't know where they are, or I don't know the world map well enough. That being said, still really, really enjoying the game. Have no sense of how far I am.
Okay. I'm getting like itchy to get to it because I still haven't started it yet. It is on my Switch, my new Switch OLED edition, OLED version, my new Switch. But I'm just like, I've had such little, like precious little time to play games lately, and it's either going into daily Tetris 99 sessions, or when I have more time, Fire Emblem Engage. And I just, not that I'm not enjoying Fire Emblem Engage, because I very much am, but like I'm itching to get to Metroid Prime.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really good. Yeah, it's really good.
I don't really have too much more to report on Fire Emblem Engage other than I'm continuing to play it. Last night, I was going into chapter 10, which appears to be like a showdown between kings, and one king is going to be sacrificed to like bring back a dragon. That's vague enough to not really be spoilery, right? Yeah, that's fine. But so I was about to go into chapter 10, and it was like, well, hold on a minute. Before you go in here, you need to know there's going to be a couple battles before you can go back to the Somniel, and like, and so like whenever a game throws up a warning like that, I'm like, oh geez, like this is going to be a big deal. And so I didn't go into it. I like went and did some like paralogs and like messed around at the Somniel for a while. And so like I had sat down yesterday to like play Fire Emblem Engage and like make some progress in the story. And I roundly didn't, you know, because the game like warned me that like this is going to be too intense. And I know when I go in there that I'm just going to like roll over it now. Because
was it like a level warning? Was it like
no?
No,
it was just saying this chapter contains multiple battles. So like it'll be a while, and you can't go to the Somniel, and you can't like restock with weapons or items or whatever between battles.
Got it.
So like you need to be ready before you.
It
start
sounds like
this
such
fight.
a turning point in the story.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm very. I'm very interested to do it, but I'm also like I want to be ready, and I'm certain that I am over ready at this point. But so maybe I'll just go in and buy a bunch of new weapons and items, and then like march on in there and just wreck shop.
Who are your, and probably at this point you've met many more characters
who
than
are my
I
guys?
Ever, yeah, who are your guys? Who are you rolling with?
Well, so Mark, early on we both bonded over our shared boyfriend Bucheron.
Yes, that's right.
And he remains like one of my like cornerstones of every army that I go in with. He's a muscly dude whose head is too small and carries a giant axe, and I love him. I'm also rolling deep with Eddie, who is my archer. There's also a like little a meek little prince guy whose name I don't remember, who is also an archer. He's like deferential to a fault, and I don't. In Fire Emblem games, I'm usually happy to just have one archer in my party, but I'm rolling with two right now, and it feels great. And I know I've praised the emblem system a bunch, but it's cool how different you can make the characters feel by pairing them with different emblems. They have like different special abilities that they can pull out at a moment's notice. So it's been cool to like experiment with them and see like how to actually make them good. Let's see. Who else am I? I mean, I'm using Alfred a lot. He's like a prince that you meet early on, who's a mounted warrior, has a spear and rides a horse. And I have him teamed up with the Sigurd emblem, so he can use that to extend his range of motion, his movement. And since he's already a mounted character, he can like fly all the way across the map. It feels great. So those are like my big mains. I still keep using those two kids, the two annoying kids. They remain the worst vocal performances in the game, but they're just valuable. They're just useful characters. So yeah, they get a lot of action. Before you ask, Connor is doing great. He's fine, still rocking those cool shades. I don't think I'm ever going to change his clothes, which is just a little bow on his butt, and a black bandana, and a pair of like aviator sunglasses.
Love it.
All right, Mark, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
On Wednesday, February 22nd, a rare Wednesday release from Nintendo, Metroid Prime Remastered is released at retail, so you can pick up physical copies.
Mm-hmm. And that is, I mean, this is another like rare Wednesday release for Nintendo, but also a rare physical release after a digital drop of the game. Like that, not something they commonly do.
Yeah, it must have only been because they really wanted to keep it a secret.
Yeah. Well, and so I mean, but like, these like pipelines have to like exist, and I guess the Metroid Prime Remaster was the worst kept secret in video games, right? But like the pipelines are such that like were they just like holding on to them and just waiting to ship them until they announced it?
Yeah, they must
like,
have been.
Were they already in transit? Or like the stores probably already knew they were coming, right?
I don't think so because I don't really think it was the worst kept secret. There were like rumblings that something
Sure. Yeah.
Metroid, but like the fact that it was real and that it was releasing the day of the direct. Like,
right, no one was saying that.
Yeah, so I think my guess is that they were prepped and ready to go, but not actually like sent out until the announcement.
Yeah, well, I just like it's just weird because like marketing tails are so long that like, and stores know what they're getting so far in advance and like plan for, and maybe just that the retail environment has changed so much that this doesn't matter anymore. But like it feels like you couldn't have done this 10 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
GameStop would have been like, "What are you talking about? We need to send like those decals so we can put them up on the window." I mean, right?
Also, I guess Metroid Prime Remastered is like a minor enough release that it's probably not like that big of a deal. But still, and do you think it's a Wednesday release to be 2 weeks after?
2 weeks after the direct, so that's like just as fast as they can do it.
Yeah, maybe
we can release it, and then 2 weeks later. I wonder if there is actually like the opposite thing where it's like if they want to stay good by their retail partners, they're like, "Don't worry, you'll get it in 2 weeks." That like any longer than 2 weeks is like a breach of contract or something.
Right? Yeah. But if you've been waiting for a physical version, I know some people have been. It's out on Wednesday, and then on Friday, February 24th, Octopath Traveler 2 is released, and Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe.
Which, just all of that coupled together with everything that came out on the day of the Nintendo Direct and the Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, which came out last week, we're in a little bit of like a glut of games that I'm interested in, period, which is bizarre for February.
Yeah, totally. I'm kind of so I have I used a voucher, one of those digital vouchers on
Mark used a voucher
on Kirby's Return to
using
Dreamland
vouchers.
Deluxe. And so it's downloaded on my Switch. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much it speaks to me because I did not really like Star Allies all that much. But this feels like another one like Star Allies that I maybe would appreciate more with playing with multiplayer.
Sure.
Rather than doing it by myself.
And possibly that you will appreciate more after we experience Kirby mod.
Yeah, that is also possible. Yeah, because I
think you would enjoy Kirby Star Allies more after we did Kirby mod.
And I would maybe have more of appreciation for some of those allies because I didn't really have context for them before. So anyways, yeah, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Half of me is like, I'm hoping I'm done with Metroid Prime Remastered before that, but
that's Friday.
I know, it's just not that much time.
I mean, you got a week here, Mark.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Say goodbye to President's Day. It's over.
Yeah, that's right.
Octopath Traveler 2 also very interesting. It seems like they've done a lot to address the like character interactions. One of the big things about the first game is that like everyone was sort of on their own. Each of the 8 playable characters was on their own journey and they didn't really interact with each other. But that's a thing they've addressed here. And I don't know, like there's like a night and day thing where characters have different abilities, like different overworld abilities, path abilities, I believe they call them, depending on whether it's night or day. The first one's a cool game, Mark. This may be a case of you need to talk me out of buying this game.
I don't know.
Can I voucher this?
I don't. Oh, I don't know.
Is this published by Nintendo?
The first one
was, as was,
but this is
Strategy.
Is launching on multi platforms, right?
Right. So I'm gonna guess no. I'm gonna guess this is being published by Square Enix.
I'm gonna guess that you are right. Yeah,
okay.
You're right. So no. So I don't think that it is a voucher game then.
Non-voucherable. All right. Well. I don't know. I should probably do Theatrhythm before I do Octopath Traveler, right?
Sure.
Advise me, Mark. Tell me what to do. All right. Those are the new releases. Let's close this segment out. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, where the performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we are going to be discussing the 20 most popular fruits and vegetables in the United States. I'm actually going to turn down this recording of 433. It's noisy.
It's like we're on Space Mountain or something.
It is like we're on Space Mountain, or like just in a construction
An alley
zone.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, you have pulled up this list. Should I also pull it up?
No. Okay,
No.
so it's from the International Fresh Produce Association. Do you, and first, before you pull it up, I think you can pull it up, but first, let me ask you, could you even begin to guess what the fruit? No, it is
not the most popular fruit.
Apples is the fourth most popular fruit.
Okay.
What about vegetables? Have a guess?
Carrots.
No, also fourth most popular.
Okay. Well, then I'm just gonna guess the fourth most popular anything.
And you would nail it.
Wait. So these are like separated vegetable and fruit?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is the most broccoli?
No, broccoli is number 6.
Okay.
Number 1 fruit is bananas.
That makes sense.
And then number 1 vegetables is potatoes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because
I don't really think of it as a vegetable.
I don't really think of it as a vegetable either. They, like, culinarily, it's its own thing. Though I did have a veggie burrito this weekend, and it had potato in it.
And
but that was disappointing.
And vegetables are all just roots.
No. So, vegetables. There's a lot of noise in this recording of 433.
There is, yeah.
I don't know that we're using this one again. There is no botanical definition for vegetable.
Okay. Right. We talked about this.
Right.
There's a botanical definition for fruit.
Right, but not for vegetables.
That's right.
Culinarily, there are things that are fruits like cucumbers, the biologically fruits, but culinarily...
Number 7, most popular on the list.
A fruit or vegetable?
A vegetable.
Okay, yeah. We use it as a vegetable. And some vegetables, yes, are roots, like potatoes, like carrots. But some vegetables, are like asparagus, and that's just like a branch or something. What is asparagus? Not on that list, I'm guessing.
No, not on the list. Oh, wait, it is at number 20, barely squeaking in.
Yes.
Also, I like that number 8 on this list is just salad mix. It's right. It counts. It's above lettuce.
Okay, so lettuce is on the list.
Lettuce is on the list.
What about
9.
green beans?
Green beans is on the list at number 15.
Okay. Corn?
Corn, number 12.
Jeez. What's the highest I've gotten? Oh, you said potatoes is number 1.
Potatoes is number 1. Okay. Tomatoes is number 2. Onions is number 3. And carrots is number 4.
Onions. I should have said onions.
And bell peppers is number 5.
Okay.
And then on the fruits, we're talking bananas.
Right.
Number 1. Strawberries. Grapes.
Strawberries are above apples?
It doesn't make any sense to me
Also
either.
above grapes? Are we talking about, like, by number of fruit? Because, like, a strawberry is not a serving of strawberries.
Oh, so you're saying, like, quantity-wise.
Volume or, or by unit.
I see.
Yeah.
I actually don't know the methodology.
All right. So
yeah.
it may not be a perfect, the list may not be perfect.
But
why would bananas be so high?
Well, and I'm going to guess that it's not like because blueberries is number 7, and that seems
ridiculously high for blueberries.
You think so? I was going to say that seems reasonable.
Where are raspberries? Above blueberries or below?
14, so below.
So way below. Okay. What about like the melons? Where are they represented on the list? Like a watermelon.
Number 5.
Watermelon number 5?
Watermelon number 5.
Watermelon number 5.
Cantaloupe number 13.
Okay, Mark, this is the end of this video. There is no applause. We will not be using this one again. We were accompanied today by a compilation video as compiled by Aeon Video. Mark, were there any surprises for you in that list of 20 fruits and vegetables that we didn't get to?
It's hard for me to say, only because I was looking at the list the whole time.
Right. And you've since closed the link.
I've since closed the link.
All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
The new season of Splatoon 3 kicks off soon. Fresh season starts March 1st. It will include some new weapons, including a new special weapon called the Kraken Royale, where you turn into a giant squid or octopus. And like in the beginning, like when you're turning into it and when you're turning out of it, then you're vulnerable. But while you are the Kraken Royale, you are invincible.
That's a pretty cool sub weapon.
Yeah, pretty fun.
I'm a little I'm like, I don't know. I find a Kraken to be like, kind of creepy, right? Like there's like a spooky element. I don't know, spooky, but like a violent kind of. There's some imagery here that the Kraken summons for me that I'm made uneasy by the squid kids just using it willy nilly.
Oh, Well, they get very large.
Okay.
So maybe you have like kraken-phobia. I'm not sure what like the scientific term.
Please, if you know the scientific term for a
fear of krakens.
Fear of krakens, please email us Nintendo Cartridge Society
at gmail.com. A new stage from Splatoon 2 is returning, Manta Maria. And also, it seems like there's an unannounced stage that is set in some sort of ruins that was spotted in the promo materials, but hasn't been officially announced.
It is like I always forget that like new material for Splatoon 3 can just like come out as part of like the regular like seasons and waves and stuff. That isn't old content returning. It's just like, here's brand new stuff.
Right. Yeah. Also, there are some other changes and updates, including they're increasing the number of items available at one time in a shop. And there's a mysterious jukebox and more stuff like that. But also
a mysterious jukebox.
Yeah,
what is that?
I think we don't know. It just looks like there's a jukebox that's going to show up in the middle of Splatsville.
Can I tell you a story about a mysterious jukebox?
Yes.
When I was in high school, we got a jukebox for the one-act play that we were doing my junior year. We were doing Scapino. I don't remember what it's about, but it was like set in like an Italian cafe, and we had this jukebox, and it was broken. We couldn't control it, so we never plugged it in. And every now and then, not plugged in, this jukebox would play Eric Clapton's After Midnight. We don't know how it did it.
Not plugged in?
Not plugged in.
Ew, that's creepy.
It was very creepy.
There are also going to be updates for Salmon Run, which I'm very excited about. So there's a new type of king salmonid that will start appearing in March. It's the Ouroboros. It looks like a dragon and it flies.
That's great. What a great name for that.
And they also announced that the next big run is happening March 4th through March 6th on the Inkblot Art Academy stage.
Which, again, the big run is not the salmonids attacking the town.
That's right.
They are instead attacking the turf war levels.
Yeah.
Which is cool in its own right.
Yep, and it's kind of like a battle between everybody who's participating in like an individual salmon run, trying to collect the most salmon eggs. And you get like a special award if that happens.
Did you participate in the last
I did
run?
Play a little bit. I liked it a lot. The music is awesome. And now that my expectations are in check for what a big run is, I think I'll be able to appreciate this one more. There's also a new Salmon Run event that will be happening in April called Extra Work. Players from, basically you can form a team with your friends and you play in this new mode, which is a fixed 5-wave scenario.
So it's the same 5 waves.
Exactly.
Okay.
And and you're competing again, kind of like Big Run, for the total number of golden eggs obtained during the run. And depending on if you reach like the top 50%, the top 20%, or the top 5% of egg scores, you receive a bronze, silver, or gold version of like a sticker reward.
Oh.
Everybody who participates will get a sticker, but then there's also these like special versions.
These metallic versions. It's like trying to get like special baseball cards or something.
Exactly. But I'm excited to see just new stuff being introduced for Salmon Run, which is of course my favorite mode.
That's why you play
in the game. And so the more Salmon Run stuff, the merrier. I really just wish that they would add the ability for you to earn. You know how in Splatoon 3 your like splat tag or whatever they call it has. You can create like a title for yourself, like awesome newbie or something like that, based on you get new words as you level up in Turf War. I wish that you could earn them by leveling up in Salmon Run as well.
Even if what if it were just you could earn more Salmon Run related titles?
That'd be great too.
Either way, you're finding new ways to refer to yourself.
Also, Wave 1 of the Splatoon 3 expansion pass releases February 28th. This is the Inkopolis Plaza cosmetic expansion, for lack of a better term.
Right. So I am fascinated to see what this actually ends up being. Not that, like, at present I have not purchased the season pass. I don't expect that I will, just because I've been playing Splatoon 3 very little. But I want to know if, like, this is truly all it is like the old hub world from the original Splatoon, or if there's, like, something more to it that, like, they didn't want to lean into in the direct, or what. It's just such a weird marquee feature for the first wave of DLC when it's a one of two.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Are you planning on getting the wave?
I don't think
getting
so.
The wave, getting the expansion, getting the season pass?
I don't think so, at least not right now. So I never played in Splatoon 2. I didn't play Octo expansion.
Right.
And then that became free as part of Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack.
Playing the waiting game.
And I tried playing it, and it was just way too hard for me. And then in Splatoon 3, I still have not played the single player. And
which
so
is outrageous,
which like it seems like, I mean, I don't know if the expansion, the wave 2 of the expansion pass for Splatoon 3 is like directly related. Side order. I don't know if it's directly related to the single player in the main game, but yeah. So I'll probably just wait and see if it eventually gets added to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, but we'll see.
Yeah, I would hope so. That's a cool, like, you know, they obviously did that, like, with the Mario Kart 8 DLC and the Animal Crossing New Horizons DLC, like, the second they came out. So I wonder how much, like, of a pull to do that they feel, of, like, as soon as something is, you know, DLC is available, like, to have it as part of the expansion pack. Obviously, this is not the case for the Splatoon 3 stuff, but yeah, kind of like, will they ever loop back around to it? Why did they decide in the first place to put those two on there? Yeah, very, very strange, very interesting.
With the opening of Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Hollywood, Shigeru Miyamoto has been doing some interviews with a number of outlets to promote the new theme park land, and which it's kind of rare to hear directly from Miyamoto in interviews. So just a couple of highlights from some of these. Miyamoto has developed a reputation, earned or unearned, on it's not really clear, for not liking stories in games or not wanting stories in games. And so IGN asked about this, to which Miyamoto responded, quote, "It's not that complex stories are unnecessary. That's not what I'm saying at all. Story is one way of explaining the game. I think story is just another way to pull out enjoyment from that experience. Another is to focus on a gameplay experience that gets you to try things over and over again. As I mentioned, story is one way to explain the game, and then that goes well sometimes. And when that goes well, sometimes people take the route of starting with the story. For me, the starting story is how to make the gameplay fun, and that's how I begin thinking about and creating a game. So again, it's not that story is unnecessary, it's just how I create games."
Which is got to just be what he meant all along, right? And it, like you said, his reputation is that he doesn't like story in games. That doesn't mean that he thinks that stories in games are bad,
right?
Even from, like, the get-go. But yeah, like this, there is an interesting, like, philosophical dichotomy between, like, does a game serve an experience or does it serve a story? Can you have an entertainment experience that isn't based in story? And, like, what are the different values of these things? And, like, there's obviously a lot of, like, music that exists wholly outside the realm of story, right? But, like, I don't know, kind of beyond that, and I guess, like, visual art can also, like, exist outside the realm of story. But everything else, like, we're story maniacs in the 20th and 21st century, right? Like, we grew up with TV. Like, we devour story. Like, you just think about how weird it is that there's a new 30-minute story on TV, like, every half hour, and it goes on forever, right? And your favorite TV shows tell 200 stories. And so, yeah, we sort of start to expect that stuff from games, but like Nintendo, there are a lot of games that that aren't actually telling stories. But Nintendo is sort of singular in being a studio that routinely puts out games that either really have no story, or like the story is just what like the experience of playing the game is, right? I always think about there was some time that Sarah asked me like what I liked about Mario, and I said I like to make him run around and jump, and like that is it. That's all I need from Mario. I don't need a story. I just need to experience his joy of movement.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, we've heard this said in different terms when Nintendo talks about like developing games in general, where they talk about starting with a gameplay idea,
yes,
like a mechanic, and then finding the fun in that mechanic, and eventually, they will layer a whether it's the characters that exist or like new characters on top of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just seems like they, as a general philosophy, like to start with the gameplay mechanic, and then figure out like the other pieces kind of like fall into place.
Yeah, and I think about, I mean, like, do you have examples like in your head of like Nintendo video game stories that you like value like highly, that you think are good stories, or stories that you like to experience? You're making a face.
No, I can't really, like, there are, I guess, because so much of like
Zelda games,
there are Zelda games, but like I recently have been watching on YouTube, because I have played a lot of Metroid games. I like Metroid as a concept, but there's a lot of like the lore of Metroid that I don't understand.
Oh yeah, once you get to like Prime as well, like the latter Prime games like get nuts up.
Well, and I'm like, wait, why was Samus raised by the Chozo? Why does she have like these special abilities? Like, why does she have Chozo DNA? Like all this kind of stuff that I never really understood. And so on YouTube, there's been like these, Metroid lore explainer videos that I've been watching here and there, and it's like, oh, okay, like I get it, like I get why Ridley is this big pterodactyl looking thing. And that one has no explanation. He's just a space dragon,
right?
Like that's just the form that Ridley takes. But but none of that is like really memorably told in the game. You compare that to something like The Last of Us or something like that, right? It's Nintendo games are more about like experiential storytelling, and there is story there a lot of the times, but most of the time it's told in like details that add up to a whole, but there's not like a lot of cutscenes or anything like that that are really like, and here's what happened next sort of stuff. So no, I can't really think of like a Nintendo story as told in a game that really moved me. Other like, I mean, there's kind of like the side stuff with Rosalina in the first.
Yeah, the Rosalina storybook
Mario Galaxy
is
stuff
a good pull. I always,
but it's
go
not
back.
really like a game story. It's like a story within a game.
It's clearly like on the side. Yeah. I mean, I always think about the story at like towards the end of Super Metroid, as you like encounter the baby Metroid, which is now huge, how it attacks you, and like the way that you experience that is largely through gameplay. You are in control for most of that. And I love the way that plays out, but I mostly love the way that it plays out largely in an interactive sense, that like it's not a cutscene where they just like tell story at you. That's, for me, when Nintendo starts to stumble, is when they're like, oh, we need to do this, so now, Mario's going to be tried for his crimes and he's going to go to jail on Delfino Island or whatever. That's the stuff that doesn't really speak to me. But it is interesting, like, to consider the Zelda of it all, because like Zelda games are telling stories, and I mean there are so many I guess like exceptions. The Fire Emblem games, there are Earthbound games, all that stuff, but just sort of like thinking of like the Nintendo flagship games, that like Zelda is the most reliant on the stories that they have to tell. And I like when it gets into like dialogue heavy parts of a Zelda game, that's where I'm least engaged.
I would say the one exception for me, I think that is definitely true. The one exception for me is Skyward Sword. I actually think Skyward Sword has a really compelling story.
It's true. And like fleshed out, fun, good characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I agree with you. I think it's not like a hard rule and I think that's kind of what Miyamoto's saying, right? It's not a hard rule, like no stories in games. They don't hate stories in games. It's just not how he personally approaches game development, and so obviously a lot of that has seeped into Nintendo's like culture.
Right.
GameSpot has an interview with both Miyamoto and Shinya Takahashi, who we most recently saw as the host of the February Nintendo Direct. There are 2 quotes here about Nintendo's general philosophy towards games and technology that I thought were interesting. One from Miyamoto where he says, quote, "For Nintendo, the idea of games is something that brings the family together in the living room and interact and act, as mentioned, like a connective tissue."
Okay, which it feels very much in line with like the sort of Wii era philosophy on gaming of like get everyone around the couch and playing together. Still kind of true and in the DNA of like the Switch, but that sounds like a sort of like outmoded Nintendo philosophy.
I feel like I think that they are changing, and we see more games with online co-op and all that kind of stuff, but I'd like that Nintendo continues, because I like couch co-op. I think that's a fun experience. And so I like that Nintendo continues to be like a standard bearer for that.
Totally.
And a big advocate for it. The context of this quote is that he's talking about like, we see games as something that brings the family together in like the living room to interact, but
Xbox sees it as something that tears the family apart.
But like, Super Nintendo World is a way to like bring that out into like the real world.
Yeah.
That was the context of that. And then Takahashi says they're asked about like technology and like the cutting edge, and Takahashi says, "I really don't consider us a cutting edge company. That's something for tech people, for programmers and whatnot to aspire to. We as a company want to take technology available to us and implement it in games in a way that is easy to use and easy to understand."
Which is an admirable take. I do anytime that there is like some sort of like cutting edge technological thing happening at Nintendo, the results are always cool. Like, you think about like the Star Fox team and like, making the 3D flight game before that was like a reality on home consoles. You think about Metroid Prime, right? And like Retro really like pushing the GameCube to like do things that no one thought the GameCube could do. And it's just like whenever that does, like the cutting edge technology meets the rest of this like Nintendo philosophy, that's when like really, really neat stuff happens. Not to say that neat stuff doesn't happen when they're making Super Mario Odyssey, and I'm sure the technology there is like kind of impressive, but it's mostly just that the game design is perfect. But yeah, it's there's a part of like my heart that aches at that statement where I'm like, oh, I wish you could do both. Oh, I wish you could do both.
Well, and I would say that I read that statement kind of like the statement about story, where I don't think that they are like adamantly opposed to doing anything cutting edge. I think that they're looking for like the application of that technology and how to make it approachable and fun for everybody. I also think that at this point, after the GameCube era and Nintendo decided to kind of go a different way from the rest of the industry, that has been so long ago at this point, almost, like probably at least close to 20 years since that decision was made,
right,
that has probably really also seeped into Nintendo culture, and that it is in some way a conscious choice not to be chasing like the latest and greatest anymore.
Yeah. So there you have it. Nintendo are a bunch of story-hating Luddites.
Also, Nintendo asked about why
IGN asked.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. IGN asked about why there isn't a Mario game tied to the theme park opening or upcoming movie. And Miyamoto basically said that they're always working on Mario and they'll talk about it when they're good and ready.
Right. I mean, also, it's funny that like that question is like, hey, why is there no game tied to the theme park and the movie? And it's like, well, maybe the theme park is tied into the movie. You know what I mean? That like these ideas are like living and supporting each other. And again, if you want to play a Mario game on the Switch, there are like 30 of them. Many of them that you can play with your Nintendo Switch Online subscription for free.
But also, it's a fair question. It's been since 2017 since we saw a new Mario game, which is a new like Mario platformer, which feels like a long time.
Outside of Bowser's Fury, which kinda counts.
It does kind of count.
Kinda count.
Kind of counts.
I like that game a lot. The weirdest to me that it's I'm gonna say it's been a very long time since the last 2D Mario game, excepting of course Mario Maker 2.
Right, which it had like
it
levels,
had its own
it had
campaign,
like a story
yeah.
mode, but I agree, it like maybe half counts, but I feel like it like counts less than Bowser's Fury does.
Oh, interesting. We should do a ranking of what counts as a new Mario game since the release of Super Mario Odyssey.
That's right. I think it'll be a short ranking.
Yes, absolutely. It'll be like Strikers. Does that count? Bottom of the list.
The Nintendo 3DS eShop is, of course, shutting down to new purchases late next month, but Nintendo has further clarified that if you're using its consolidation service that they offer to merge your 3DS account with your Switch account, that will be going away in March 2024. So basically, if you have credit in the 3DS eShop, when the eShop closes to new downloads in late March 2023, you still have 1 year to combine your accounts and have that money be spendable on Switch.
So for one year, you have that time. And also just a point of clarification, it's not just downloads, it's purchases.
Sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
The 3DS eShop closes to new purchases at the end of March.
Which sounds like I'm being pedantic, but it's an important distinction.
Right, because if you had previously purchased something, you'll be able to download it from the 3DS eShop for the foreseeable future.
So I do think that there is still... I'm glad that there's that year grace period where you can do that. I think this process is intuitive, right? Of merging your accounts.
I haven't done it.
My accounts have been merged for as long as I've owned the Switch. So, and I don't know how I did that. It may have been something that I lucked into making the right choices in the right order. Mark, I'm about to share something with you that may be devastating. I'm not sure because Sarah and I haven't talked about it yet. I think my island is trapped on my old Switch.
What?
So it's there. The island is on the old Switch. I visited it on the old Switch, and I did like the backup, but I can't. I'm reading the instructions on like how to restore your island, and it's like this is really only for like if your Switch gets destroyed or something. And I was like, okay, great. And then like I try to do this transfer, and it doesn't work.
Oh,
so I think my island, my Animal Crossing island, I guess still is on that Switch, and as long as I don't get rid of it, it's there. But like, I don't know. This makes me I'm a little worried.
Yeah, that's weird
about the status of this island.
So do you?
This island has Cookie the dog on it, and Sherb.
Do you think that you needed to transfer it when you were setting up your OLED?
I don't know,
because that feels like the only like possible variable.
So the first time you start Animal Crossing, right? It takes you to like a little kiosk with Timmy and Tommy Nook. They're going to like settle you on the new island, right? And you can be like, oh no, I've played this game before. And they're like, oh, are you moving here? And I'm like, no, that's not really what I want. I don't want to move to a new island. I don't want to take my user profile and like transfer it over to this new island. I want to back up this island and put it here. And like I don't know how to do it.
This has to be. It feels like
I Googled it.
I know. It just feels like it must be a solvable problem.
It seems like it must be a solvable problem. I would think that it would be an easier problem to solve. And I understand they don't want people to just like split an island and like, whatever dumb Nintendo garbage that they don't want you to do. But like being able to carry over your persistent world that you've nurtured for years, it seems like that should be easy.
Yeah. It does, or at least easy, like apparent.
Yes,
like how to do it,
right?
If it is possible,
because it
must be possible.
I'm not dumb, right?
No, you're not dumb.
I should be.
You remembered that quote from Titanic.
I sure did, Mark. I'm taking that as an insult, by the way.
Finally, last week we talked about the Pokemon Company having a presence at PAX East in March. Nintendo has also been confirmed to be attending the show. So we still don't have any idea what either company will be showing off, but it's not that far away. PAX East runs March 23rd through 26th in Boston.
I was going to throw out like a joke, like ultimate Pokemon prediction thing. Like, I don't even know what that would be anymore. Is there like a go-to, like, I don't know, Pokemon Yellow 2?
Yeah, I don't know. We must be getting close to the DS games being remade. Is that true?
Mark, you know I don't know.
Yeah, I shouldn't have even thrown it out there because I don't have any idea either.
Pokemon Snap 3? When are they going to do a Pokemon versus Digimon game? That's what I want to know.
Ooh, there we go.
That's a terrible pitch. All right, Mark, let's close out the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, you can always follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ehlers. Mark's at MK Mitchell. And the show is at NinCart Society. Get in our Discord if you're not already there. Email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com. We will send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ehlers saying thank you for listening.